Devin Haney, massive credit. He's one of these. He's 23 years old, man.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Perspective, mate. I'm 28 years old. I've done jack shit with my life, right? This kid.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Another Round. Today we're going to be going over the massive world title fight with Joe Cordina. Obviously, we're going to be unpacking the massive showdown in Australia, Melbourne, Australia, between Devin Haney and Kambosos. And we're also going to just go over a fight that just happened between Japanese Inoue and Donaire. And we're going to be looking forward to the massive fight on Saturday, world title shot for Daniel Dubois. And I'm with, as always, my co-host, Hamza Hanif. How's it going,
What's up, bro? You good?
Yes, I'm good, mate. I'm loving the flexing. Loving the flexing, bro. But yeah, let's start off with the
flex, but I'll flex it anyway.
Mate, it's all good. It's all good. What about Joe Cordina, mate? What a finish, bro. You called it. You said there's going to be some Welsh wizardry going on, and there absolutely was, mate. That was some finish. That was some fight. What a knockout that was.
No, he conjured up a brutal knockout, and I haven't seen a shot like as clean as that in a long time. And it was weird, right? Because it was Ogawa kind of like left his feet behind and was almost reaching for him when he cracked him with it, and he just took it full force and he just keeled backwards like it was like he'd been shot or something. He just went straight backwards, and it was a really devastating knockout. And to be honest with you, Joe Cordina, he's one of those like he looks very polished, but because he was stepping up the levels so quickly, I was like, listen, he's got the talent to get this done, but man, the way that he did it was just spectacular. You know, you've got to take your hat off to that.
You know what's crazy? I think a lot of credit has to be given to Tony Sims's trainer, and I don't think he gets enough credit, honestly, because the amount of boxers, world titles, amount of fights that he's like pushed through. And he was saying throughout the fight, I heard him in the corner, he was like, just keep doing the 1-2, like keep jab and overhand right. And he's telling him to do that. And then like a few minutes later, he knocked him spark out. And I watched an interview with Tony Sims. I think it might have been IFL. And it was basically saying, you know, he was trying to copy the 1-2 Roberto Duran, and that they knew that Ogawa has his hands up high. So basically, he's got a high guard. So the plan was to jab him in the body, to the body, and then wait for him to lower his hands and then crack him right in the face. And that's exactly what happened. And it was an absolutely perfect finish. I was quite surprised.
I think it was one of the first right hands he threw as well. I might be wrong about that because I haven't seen it once.
He tried it a few times, mate. He was trying it a few times, but Tony Sims was in his corner, like, keep doing it. It's gonna come. And he was like, don't stop doing that. And that is what ultimately got him the knockout. So, you know, I think a lot of people don't kind of give him enough credit, but he's a guy that was been in Dillian White's corner. You know, he's been successful with a lot of these guys, a lot of British heavyweights, a lot of British fighters in general. So yeah, and it was also good to see, like, you know, obviously Joe Cordina is close with all the 2016 Olympic team, the boxing Olympic team. Is obviously massive mates with Buatsi, and they've stayed friends. So you see, like, as soon as he knocked him out, the first person he comes and hugs is Buatsi's there, like bending over the ring.
Wasn't he?
Yeah. Because I think who else is there? Like Nicola Adams, and there's a couple of other people there. Yeah, so I remember before the fight, Buatsi was saying actually,
Conor Benn was there because I believe he's under Sims as well, isn't he?
Yeah, and I remember before the fight, Buatsi was saying, you know, Joe Cordina is probably like out of our 2016 Olympic team, he was the most talented. He had the most like skills that you wouldn't expect. And like you were saying, the Welsh wizard, like he's got some like tricks that you just can't replicate. You just kind of naturally got that ability. And mate, I'm excited to see him, you know, in the future. I'm looking forward to seeing what he's going to do next. That was a good fight. And then obviously massive fight, mate, between Devin Haney and Kambosos. Kambosos didn't seem to get any kind of grasp. I don't think he won a second of a round, mate, because Haney came with that game plan of using the jab. He didn't actually say that before the fight, but given his background, his style, that's what I was expecting him to come out and do, and just use his jab to full effect. And obviously, like, it worked.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And do you know what it is? It was an absolute shutout performance. And it was one of those where, like, it could have very easily have been 12 look. When I watched it, I believe I scored 2 rounds to Kambosos, but those were rounds that, like, you know, he was doing better than he had in the previous round. Do you know what I mean? It's not like he was winning the round almost per se, but he was being a bit more active. It's hard to give him rounds in that fight. And before I actually talk about the fight itself, I just want to say you have to give Devin Haney massive credit. He's one of these. He's 23 years old, man.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Perspective, mate. I'm 28 years old. I've done jack shit with my life, right? This kid is 23 years old. He went into enemy territory without his father, who's also his main trainer as well. Right? And obviously, Bill came in last minute, and that's fantastic. He was in the corner, and that was a massive, you know, obviously a boost of support for him. But, you know, he went there in that mind state to just completely go into enemy territory. Everything was probably against him. The judges were probably against him. If he hadn't just boxed the head off him, he might not have got it, you know, if it had been more competitive. Everything was kind of against him. Kambosos was coming off a massive win. The momentum was with Kambosos. And yeah, you have to give him props because he's taken this email champ shit for long enough.
Yeah, exactly. You're right.
For him to produce a performance like that, man, you have to just, at 23 years old, he's unified lightweight champion. But before I rant on for too long, I do want to actually talk about the fight itself. And the first thing that I mentioned to you when we talked after was the jab. He's got one of the best jabs in boxing. He does so many different things with it. He varies the power of it. It's a low jab. It's a high jab. It's you know, and they used to say that about Ali, that all he's got is a jab. But the thing is, if you've got a great jab,
like
one
AJ,
of the best punches.
Yeah, but like AJ always says, you know, a hard right will take you around the block, and a good jab will take you around the world. That's one of my favorite quotes.
That's a really good saying. That I'd never heard that before. You know.
Yeah, that's what Anthony Joshua said. Yeah, hard right will take you around the block, and a good jab takes you around the world, and that is no more present than with Devin Haney. And the thing, to be fair to the kid, like, he rubbed a lot of people off because he came out very cocky. But also, I think when you're that confident in your own ability, you got to give him credit and props. And I'd love to see him in a fight with Gervonta Tank Davis. I think him and Haney would be great. Any of the top now, I want to see them all fight each other. That's what it needs. You know, that's what boxing needs. That's what the lightweight division needs now. We've had a few great fights, you know, Teofimo Lopez and George Kambosos. That was such a good, stylistically, such a good fight. You know, Haney, I want to see him in a challenging fight. And I think he could well be the number one of the division. You know, a couple more fights to probably solidify that. But yeah, it was a great performance. It was a classy performance. You got to say, like, he didn't really get a mark on him. I know he got headbutted. I think George Kambosos got frustrated and headbutted him, and he had a mark above his eye. But other than that, he was barely touched. You know, it was a very, very professional, classy performance from Haney. So yeah, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, one of the things that he did so well, you know, I think Lopez and Kambosos, stylistically, they matched up very well because Lopez wanted to steamroll him and come right at him. And Devin Haney's game plan was completely different.
Yeah.
Not only was he jabbing him, but his movement, he's very quick of hand, but he's also very quick of foot as well. And his movement is just phenomenal. And what he does with his movement, that's very subtle, is he offsets the opponent. So they have to reset again. And I think that's what was actually making Kambosos hesitate, because every time he was going in to do an attack, Haney was switching the angle on him, and he was somewhere else, and he was jabbing him in the face whilst he was doing it, you know, and he was doubling up the jab at times beautifully as well. So it's just one of those. As stupid as this is, because obviously it was such a dominant performance by Haney, I
Yeah,
actually still have a massive amount of respect for George Kambosos, and I
me
would
too.
actually
Yeah.
like to see the rematch because I think George
Well,
Kambosos would have went. Sorry.
they're contractually
Yeah,
obliged to do that another fight in Australia because that's what was
good.
agreed before that first fight.
I think it should. I mean, I think it should be back in America, to be honest with you. But
It
obviously,
isn't though. It's in Australia.
Haney
However,
had to kind of give up everything really to get
yeah,
that shot. You
yeah,
know.
because it's undisputed. So and I think
The
he
thing is, as
wasn't going
well,
to
though,
give
with
it
that
to him.
lightweight division, bro, it's musical chairs in that lightweight division, right?
Mm,
Lopez only made one defense to Kambosos. He got that ripped away from him. Now
yeah.
it's Haney.
Hey, I'm okay
So
with that.
yeah,
Eventually, we're going to find out the answers, aren't we? Eventually, we're going to find out the answers.
we're getting closer.
That is
We're getting
much
closer to
better.
the answer.
Yeah, much better that way than if you're like, oh, I'll do one defense, then I'll fight a bunch of like top 25 guys, and then I'll just keep it easy, and then I'll maybe do something else. This is way better this way. I'd much rather musical chairs going on, and then eventually we're going to find out who's the real deal, and it's probably the real deal, Devin Haney, and that probably seems
Haney versus Lomachenko as well.
Lomachenko as
Stylistically,
well.
is
Yeah,
a beautiful fight. Like because
beautiful
he
fight.
controls people with his jab and his foot, with his foot movement. With his but if you Lomachenko is just so difficult to hit, and he's so difficult to read, and he's got fantastic footwork himself.
Yeah.
So stylistically, I'm really intrigued by that particular fight.
There might be some surprises along the way. You never know. Someone like Ryan Garcia might pop out of nowhere and just like he might steal the show. I doubt it, but he could. You know what I mean? That's why you don't really know. It's not set in stone yet, so there's still a lot to be done. But anyway, another interesting fight midweek, which is kind of strange, but it was in Japan. They do things a little bit differently over there. So in Tokyo, Japan, the monster that is the bantamweight Inoue versus Donaire, the rematch fight number 2. That guy has got he's like a pocket rocket. That guy's got some power in his hands. I don't know how they get down to that weight, mate. 118 pounds as it is to make the bantamweight. Wow. Man, that's crazy to me.
That's my leg.
Yeah, exactly. So he's just unreal. But that guy, what a stoppage. I don't know if you managed to catch it because it was only on yesterday. Do you manage to see the highlights?
I did. Yeah. It was crazy because they had a really, really good first fight as well. Yeah. And one of the things I noticed immediately was that Inoue, the Japanese champion, he looked significantly like he looked a bit skinnier in the last fight. He looked significantly more muscled up. Yeah. And immediately you could see as soon as right towards the middle part of the first round, there was a significant power difference. And I don't know if that was just because he was landing on him clean, but his shots were troubling him early. And that right hand, the first one that dropped Donaire, it was as soon as Donaire got back up, the referee waved Inoue to come in to continue the fight. And as soon as Inoue walked forward, the round ended. If there had been 10 more seconds, I feel like that would have been a first round stoppage because I feel like if he'd have cracked him one more time, it was over. He really destroyed him, and Donaire's got massive heart because in that second round, he was still hurt from the first round. And within the first couple of exchanges, he got badly hurt with the left hook, and how he stayed on his feet, I don't know.
Yeah.
But the man's got he's tough as old boots, Donaire. You have to give him that, It's hard. It's one of them where it's like, he got knocked out in round 2, but it was tough. The shots that he took, were significant shots, and he took them as long as he could. You know what I mean? And yeah, I mean, honestly, that guy he defies logic almost. How hard he hits. It's bizarre.
Mate, I'm not going to lie to you. You made a good point. He did look jacked. Yeah. So I feel like he's been on the old Japanese sauce over there. So I don't know what he's been taking, but he looked very powerful and very muscly all of a sudden. So
that secret ingredient for the ramen potentially.
Whatever that sauce is, hey, it's working. So keep going for it. So, but
good luck to him, man.
Mate, he's probably the most powerful guy in the lower weight divisions. of boxing. You know, that guy is as he says, he's a monster. So yeah, it was a good fight. Excited about this fight on Saturday. Didn't get to go, unfortunately. Couldn't get the press pass.
Before we quickly talk about that, can we just quickly bring up this article that you sent me, bro?
Yes,
I was like shocked by that. So that because you sent
terrible.
me it, so
yeah. So obviously, breaking news: Inoue's house was robbed whilst he was making that during the fight. Obviously the people knew
the monster was not at his lair. You know, he was away from his lair.
He was away. And his family was obviously with him to support him at the boxing. And whilst he was there, he was robbed, which is horrible, which seems to be unfortunately some kind of trend that keeps happening. It's been happening the last couple of years. And I've seen it a lot with like Champions League with the football players. You know, like Liverpool and Chelsea players going off, playing a game away from home, and then they're getting robbed whilst they're away. Mate, it's disgusting, really. Hopefully he's got some house insurance and he can get some of that back. But
hopefully he made enough money from the Donaire situation where it kind of softens the blow. It's a horrible thing to happen, and I've seen it happen to Chris Eubank, and it was a similar thing. I believe he was at a press conference in Germany when it happened to him, and they'd broken in, and obviously they pick these targets. I think it's even happened to David Beckham and stuff like that. Like they pick because they know where they're going to be. And I think you're absolutely right about the trend as well. I think obviously we don't talk about politics on this podcast, and we talk about boxing. But I think with the way things are at the moment, with the prices of everything going crazy and people are really struggling, and you see that with the crime rates, you know what I mean? And
but I don't want to make any excuses for that, because that's kind of disgusting to me. At the end of the day.
No, absolutely. I'm just saying, I think that's what's causing the trend.
Probably.
The fact that people are just, fucking crazy at the moment.
Yeah. I think social media doesn't help. I think the last few years, obviously, people are putting more and more of their lives online, especially on things like Instagram. And
happened to me at Con just recently in London. Do you remember?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because they're posting where they are at the specific time where they are at that time. And obviously with things like a boxing match or a football match, it's a specific time and date. It's not really a way you can get out. Obviously, if I was one of them guys that have my house like Fort Knox, believe you me, and I'd have my house absolutely solid, but I ain't got anything to steal, so I'm good right now.
Two big fuck off Rottweilers, bro. You know
absolutely,
what I mean? Two big fuck off Rottweilers.
Yeah.
Big fed.
About that, but massive fight on Saturday. Big fight, mate. I'm not gonna be going, so I'm gonna be watching just like you from home. But Daniel Dubois, first world title shot. I feel like he's kind of gone out of favor of a lot of the British public because of his he lost to Joe Joyce, and then he's kind of he's had a bit of a fall from grace. He was dubbed obviously the next big thing to AJ, the next bit of heavy hitting, the UK Mike Tyson. I love this guy. You think maybe you're not as much of a fan of him, but I want to see him. I want to see him do well on Saturday. Trevor Bryan is talking a lot of game. He's been on social media taking pictures of Caroline Dubois, Daniel Dubois' sister, making fun of her, saying that Daniel looks like his sister with some makeup on, etc. like that. That kind of stuff. Mate,
I don't like that shit, but that is funny to say. That is a funny thing to say.
But this guy is he's a cornball. Mate, the way he's talking isn't my style. It reminds me a little bit of Charles Martin, when Charles Martin talked all that smack and he came to the UK to fight Anthony Joshua.
I'm a god. I will resist like a god. That didn't age well.
Mate, you've got to give it to him. He's got a lot of confidence, so maybe he'll back that up. I don't know. But the
Americans, they come with a significant, like, it's the next, like the trash talk is like
ultra layer, mate. It's like they go beyond. They're like, I'm a god now.
With it.
I walk on this earth like a god. Yeah. So we'll see, mate. We'll see. Because I'm excited to see that fight. Is Trevor Bryan really going to back up what he says? Is Daniel Dubois going to kind of come and make a statement and really show everybody what he's got? And that's what I'm looking for. And I'm excited. In Miami Casino on Saturday, the 11th of June. So that's going to be huge, mate. And And you know, there's a lot more Brits getting world titles now. Joe Cordina got one last weekend. Maybe Daniel Dubois will get another one. It's all good. It's good for the
absolutely. It can only be a good thing for British boxing if Daniel Dubois goes out there and irons out Trevor Bryan. You know, so which I think he will. You know, I do think that, you know, Daniel Dubois. I do think he was potentially over sort of egged at the start of his career, you know, because he became sort of, at that time, he was one of Frank Warren's only sort of big, heavy hitting sort of heavyweights. And so he kind of maybe pushed him a little bit too far, too soon.
Yeah.
But it's one of those where I do think he has tremendous power. And I think Trevor Bryan is hittable. And that's not a good mix. He's a bit older as well. I don't think he's going to be able to get out of the way of those shots. So I hope he does really well. You know, it can only be a good thing. The more belts we collect, the more fighters we can bring over here to challenge for those belts, the more big nights that are in the UK. It's good for everything, you know?
Yeah. It's going to be an exciting, and I hope to God that Tyson Fury comes back, you know. Hopefully he will. Yeah. Hopefully AJ can somehow win the rematch. You know, it's not looking good for him right now, but if he does, my God, there's going to be some big fights going on. Daniel Dubois, Tyson Fury, AJ in the mix. Like, it's going to be.
Tyson Fury is on an absolute spending spree as well at the minute. He's buying Rolls Royces. He's buying 20 grand dogs. He's fucking.
Which isn't a good sign, by the way. By the way, it's not a good sign because he's been.
It is a good sign. It is a good sign because it means he's going to make some. He's going to need some more cash. That's the point.
Okay, yeah. Oh, that's a good thing. I was just thinking on the case, like, is he on the verge of having another? I don't want him to have some kind of breakdown. I don't want.
I hope not. Yeah, sorry, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. So, because he's been drinking a lot. I mean, obviously he deserves to drink. You know, he's celebrating his wins and everything. I don't want him to pile on and blow up again and be huge and then have to lose another, like, you know, 10 stone again to come back. Yeah. So as long as he's still training and keeping it cool, which I think he is, hopefully, you know, he makes a comeback and kind of solidifies his place in the heavyweight division. That's what we all want to see, mate. And fingers crossed that's going to happen.
A happy, healthy Tyson Fury is great for boxing. Not even just British boxing, just boxing.
Just for boxing in general, mate. He's a big personality.
In general, you know.
Yeah. He's a big personality. He's huge. So.
I'm Sonny Liston. I'm Jack Dempsey. There's no one like